In a secluded garden on the edge of a dense forest, a woman with long, curly silver hair knelt in the soft earth. Her hands moved with practiced grace, pulling weed after weed to make a bed for her new harvest crop. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm, golden light across the garden. Autumn was just around the corner, and she needed to sow her seeds to ensure she would have enough to eat and to heal during the winter to come. The villagers sought her out every autumn and winter, relying on her tinctures, potions, and balms to help them endure the chilly season. They asked her for her healing and her charms to ward off spirits and sickness, and she obliged them happily. The villagers called her the witch, a title she carried with pride. To her, it was a term of great esteem, though she knew some whispered and gossiped behind her back. She had once been a star, a brilliant light in the night sky. She watched Earth for a long while, the people, the animals, plants, and trees, enamored by the warmth and sweetness she saw in a tiny village. The simplicity, and realized she no longer wished to stay in the sky, there in the cold and dark space. She had fallen to earth, drawn by a curiosity and maybe a longing she couldn't explain. Now she was still finding her way in this strange world. Despite the villagers' coldness, she had come to love this place. She loved the way the forests surrounded her little cottage, the way the seasons changed with a rhythm all their own, and the village, even with its stubborn, wary people. This was her home. She had chosen it for a reason for which she hadn't known yet. One afternoon, as she tended her garden, she heard a familiar voice calling through the trees. "Witch! Witch! Ah, there you are!" Gail appeared at the edge of the garden, her hazel eyes flickering over the little cottage nestled amongst the trees. "Oh, yes. My goodness, I found you. I'd like you to make me a—" "Hello, Gail," the witch greeted, her voice warm. "Wonderful to see you again." Yes, hello," Gail replied, waving a hand dismissively. "I need a charm for the upcoming festival, one that will attract a lover. No, a husband. Oh, yes, I tire of games. I want a husband to build me a house and give me pretty trinkets and flowers, sweep me off my feet and buy me dresses and the like. Oh, goodness." The witch smiled politely. "How would you like it made?" "Oh, a bracelet this time," Gail said, her tone decisive. "No more sachets. I do hate sewing my own clothes, and I don't like those embroidered charms. I always have to work my wardrobe around them." "A bracelet would be a little extra work," the witch began. "It would—" Yes, the cost. Just charge it to my father, as he'd love to marry me off anyway soon." "It will be ready in 3 weeks, just in time for the harvest festival. I will see you then." "Oh, perfect! Goodbye, witch," Gail called as she hurried off, already thinking of the festival and the attention she would command. The witch watched her go, a thoughtful expression on her face. She couldn't help but feel a pang of loneliness. She had come to this world hoping to find something, a curious something, but she couldn't place what it was. Yet, even after all this time, she had not found it. As the weeks and days passed, she worked diligently on Gail's bracelet, carefully selecting the finest herbs and stones, those that would attract love and kind-heartedness. She infused the bracelet with magic, silvery, metallic, and sweet. As she did, she knew this charm, like all the others, would only bring temporary happiness. A soreness settled, lingered over her. She rolled her shoulders back, releasing her tension, and readied for bed. As the days grew shorter and the air ever cooler, the witch gathered her warmest cloak and sat out of her cottage to forage for a few ingredients for spells, potions, and dinner. Approaching the edge of the village, she saw someone new, a stranger. He was taller than her, with dark skin and thick black beard that framed his strong features. His eyes were deep and kind, yet had a pain in them that spoke of someone who faced many battles. He moved with a quiet confidence, waltzing from stand to stand, looking at jewelry, big goods, the clothing. The villagers whispered about him, excitement filling the air of the streets. They chattered, saying they knew him, heard of him, that he had once been a weapon forger and a knight. He had left his past behind after the war, seeking a new life, a man of great esteem. He moved with a quiet confidence. There was something different about him, something that called to the part of her that had once been a star. As he walked through the village, the other villagers kept their distance, unsure of what to make of him. Unsure, but very intrigued. A man from the capital, a knight. That evening, as the festival began, the witch handed Gail the completed bracelet. It was a delicate piece. Pink stones and polished crystal glimmered in the catching sunlight. Gail slipped it onto her wrist, her lips curving to a satisfied smile. "Oh, it's perfect! I can't wait to see who lines up for me today." Giddy and bright, she skipped away, her attending maid placing out a gloved hand to hold her payment, allowing the woman to drop it into. The witch nodded sweetly. They still feared just touching her. The sting that she felt so strongly before was dull now, allowing the woman to drop it into the small basket she held. But as the night wore on, the witch found herself drawn to the new arrival. She watched him from afar, noticing how he, too, seemed a little out of place, a little apart from the others. As the moon reached ever higher in the twilight sky, she thought it would be best now to go home. She lit her lantern and headed for the forest. But someone hoped to cross paths with her near the edge of the festival grounds. "You're the witch," the stranger said, his voice rich and warm, like a hearth on a winter's night. "The one they speak of in whispers." "I am," she replied, her silver hair glinting in the moonlight. "And you are the stranger who has caught their eyes." "I am no longer a knight. My name is Taryn," he stated, answering an unasked question. "I left that life behind. I seek something simpler, something true. The witch turned to look up at him. Her heart skipped, something she had not experienced since she'd fallen to earth. "And have you found it?" "Not yet," he admitted, "but I think I might be on the right path." They sat on the bench on the edge of the little town, spoke for hours, the festival fading into the background. The witch found herself opening up to him, sharing her story, how she had once been a star, that she loved Earth, how blue, vast, and diverse, how she had chosen to fall, how she had struggled to find her place, that she made her own. He listened, his eyes never leaving hers, but for the first time, she felt truly seen. As the night drew to a close, he took her hand, his touch grounding and reassuring. "You don't belong here, among those who fear what they don't understand. But perhaps we could find a place where we both belong." The witch looked into his eyes and saw the understanding and warmth there, a reflection of the very earth she had come to love. She shook her head gently. "This is my home. Of all the places on this planet, I chose it, and I love it, even with its challenges. The earth is vast, but this little piece of it is mine, and I do not wish to leave it." The man nodded, understanding. "Then perhaps I could stay." "Then perhaps I could stay. This village might not be welcoming, but I see something here worth staying for." A small smile touched the witch's lips. "You would be welcome," she said softly, "and perhaps, in time, villagers will come to see the value in what they do not understand." As she stood and wished him a good night, he called to her. She paused, his gaze softening as he looked at her. "Calling you witch seems too distant, too cold for someone so full of light. What is your name?" She hesitated, turning to look at him in the lantern's light. "My name?" "Yes," he said, his voice gentle but firm. "Your name." "Well, I don't have one. I just go by witch." "Would I be too forward to ask if I could give you a name?" "You could try," she chuckled. Taryn thought for a while. "How about Astrid? It means divine strength. It suits you." The name settled over her like a dreamy haze, comforting and fitting in a way she hadn't expected. A small smile touched her lips. "Astrid. I like it." "Then Astrid it is," the knight said, smiling back at her. "You would be welcome, Astrid," he added softly. "And perhaps in time, the villagers will come to understand the value in what they do not understand." She smiled. And so, the stranger stayed, slowly becoming a part of the village. Despite their wary glances and whispered gossip, the witch continued her work. But now she was no longer alone. Darren's presence was a constant source of belonging and care. Kind and unyielding, he set up a shop there, a forge in the town square. He sold some of her popular tonics and potions there, but mostly it was to sell his tools, weapons, and because of her, it became his home. Together, they created a new kind of connection, one that grew with the seasons, rooted in the soil of the home she had chosen. And as the stars twinkled above her, Astrid knew she had found what she'd always been searching for. A place she truly belonged, with a person she wished to belong to.